name is Jay Cruz, and I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a backstory on how I met Jay and where I was in my life. Right after high school, a couple months after graduating high school, I moved to New Mexico.
At the time before I met Julie, I was in a super bad relationship, and my sister actually, she mentioned to me, hey, why don't you come to the internship with me?
I didn't realize that Jay was going to be an intern for the coming year until the last minute. I don't think he even applied until the last minute, but I had done the internship with his sister for a year, and so I got really close with her and I really liked her.
So when my sister offered me the chance to go, I applied, and thank goodness I was accepted, and I left in a heartbeat because I needed to go.
Anyway, my job for the apprenticeship was to kind of welcome in the new interns and talk to them on the phone and send them little packets.
Julie was the coordinator for the interns, and she had to, talk to us, make sure that we were set up, make sure that we were comfortable, and send us all the information that we needed.
I talked to Jay on the phone for like an hour.
We probably talked an hour to an hour and a half each time we talked, and I was really digging her. I was like, oh, okay, this girl, she's kind of feeling me. I was feeling myself. I was like, okay, all right.
I mean, really, on my end, it was just like, I was telling him about the internship and about New Mexico and kind of things to expect.
A couple weeks later, like right before the internship, I got a package, and it was from the internship. And I was like, all right, cool. And it had like a couple of things in there talking about New Mexico and how, I think there was a travel guide in there. There's a couple other information things about the internship. There was a cinnamon Jolly Rancher in there and like a green chili keychain or something like that. And then it said in the bottom, some like it hot. And I'm like thinking, okay, hey, yeah, see, I was right. What I was thinking about her, she was feeling about me.
I sent a welcome packet, which I had sent to every intern, which included like some things like a cinnamon Jolly Rancher and like a keychain with like the New Mexico chilies, because I don't know if you know this, but like New Mexico is known for being hot, like their chilies are really hot. I made like a little card that said some like it hot, and I sent it to all of the interns that were gonna be coming in that summer.
I come to find out, of course, it wasn't. That was just me. I thought it was like the hottest thing since sliced bread at the time. Obviously, it's just a normal guy.
And Jay received it, and I really didn't know anything about how he felt.
And in one of the conversations, I remember specifically saying to her, hey, maybe sometime we'll be able to hang out or whatever. And she's on the other end of the phone saying, oh yeah, sure, yeah, we can hang out, yeah, we'll all hang out. And in her mind, it was like, yeah, we're all gonna be hanging out as a group because we're gonna be basically working with each other every single day. But I'm thinking, yeah, we're gonna have some one-on-one time, like I'm gonna be hanging out with you one-on-one. So a few weeks later, I drive out there with one of my friends, and we're supposed to meet at the house that everybody else is at, all the interns and the apprentices, where they're at, because I'm going to this internship. Well, we couldn't find it. We didn't know exactly where it was. GPSs weren't a thing at the time. That's what tells you how long ago this was. And we ended up meeting at a Love's gas station, of all places.
So the first few days of my apprenticeship and Jay's internship, we were just trying to get to know each other, and then we were going to break up the interns into different groups. So the group that I was helping lead was called Leadership Development. So there were a couple of other guys I was leading with, and we had a few interns in our group. And I very quickly realized that I was going to butt heads with Jay.
The team that I got put under was Leadership Development, and Julie and two other guys were the head of those, and me and another intern were in that group with her. We didn't get along.
We didn't get along in the beginning, like, at all. We spent a couple of weeks where I was like, this guy, like, every time he would walk in, it was just like, I would kind of be like, okay, here we go, another day,
A couple months went on where we weren't at each other's throats, but we weren't very pleasant with each other. We weren't mean, but it wasn't like we had a good friendship relationship. She used to pull up to the building in her car, and I used to pull up to the building in my car too. She always parked like 4 or 5 spots down from me, but I could see she was always sitting in her car either listening to music or reading her Bible, and that's actually where I ended up doing my devotions as well. So I was doing my devotions in the morning, and I would always finish before her, and I remember walking by and seeing her in the car. One of those mornings, God just said to me, hey, chill out, bro.
I remember specifically walking into the internship one day, and he was like nice to me. Like, he went out of his way to be nice to me, and I was like, who is this guy? Like, I mean, he's always been mean, you know, like ever since the beginning. So I'm like, I don't know what changed or how come it changed, but all of a sudden I was like, oh, maybe he's not so bad. Like,
I put it on myself to make a change. And that morning, when she came in, I just turned to her and I said, hey, Julie, good morning. Like, how are you doing? And she just gave me like the most sideways, like crazy look, like who are you and what did you do with Jay? And which was a great thing. So that was like the beginning of us actually being normal people to each other.
We started IMing. Okay, you guys, back then we didn't have texting on our phones. We had like the old school phones, you know, or email. I mean, really, there was nothing else. So we started like instant messaging each other back and forth. It's so funny.
We were in the same room and we would chat with each other. We were like maybe 10 feet apart from each other with our backs turned to each other, and we used to always chat back and forth.
I don't know, like I started to think of him in a different way. At this point, I don't think I liked him, but I was starting to notice that he maybe wasn't so bad after all.
I remember one thing specifically is there was a custom-made skateboard park on the premises of the facilities that we were at, and at one point I hurt myself and I jammed the skateboard into the back of my heel, and it scabbed up and got real bad. And she went out of her way to go buy some vitamin E oil so that I would take care of it, and she would check on me pretty much every single day and see if I was taking care of it. And that little act, the act that she still does to this day, began for me, that's what began me thinking, okay, maybe she likes me. I loved the nurturing and the caringness, whatever that is. I love that about her.
I think things started to change for how I felt about him. We went on a trip called the Trailblazers trip.
I think it was like the first or second day we were driving like all the way across the country. So we had a lot of time in the van, and the two guys were sitting in the front seat. They drove back and forth. I never drove, just them two drove. And Julie and I were sitting she sat in the middle seat and I sat in the back seat. And we talked like a lot during that trip.
I remember we had this van and we were like going across the country, and I remember purposefully sitting like in the van sideways like this.
Like this, with her arm over the
like with my hand between the seats, and Jay was in the back, like just with my hand like a little closer to where his seat was. And I don't remember if I like thought I wanted him to like grab my hand or like what. I mean, I was pretty young still at this time, like 19 or something.
I know, this is one thing that I was really good at. I knew she was trying to give me signals. I read that signal from way far away. I read that signal well.
I don't remember if it was the first day, but maybe it was the second day. But Jay actually grabbed my hand, and I was just like, oh my gosh. I remember thinking it was the coolest thing ever.
And I grabbed her hand. Like, it was amazing. No, it was. I
think that's when, like, for me on my end, I started to like him. And that trip, I think for me, I can't speak for Jay, but I think for me was pretty pivotal.
I think from that moment, I was digging her, and I knew that she was digging me. It's a bad formula to begin with. If you put a guy and a girl that are at least friends with each other or slightly attracted to each other on a trip for a whole week, and they're stuck in a van together, it's not a formula for a disaster. It's a formula for what it became.
At one of the stops, we went to an Applebee's, and we were meeting some friends for dinner, and Jay and I were sitting across from each other, and we were like putting our feet together, you know, like playing footsies or whatever. It's so funny. Like, our story goes back so far, and we were so like dorky.
Yeah, we did that.
But we would put our feet together. And I just remember thinking he was the coolest thing. I used to work at a cafe that we had at the church in New Mexico. Jay would come in to the cafe and help me close, like do all the closing duties, like the stuff nobody wants to do, like vacuuming the floors and like cleaning off the tables and putting the chairs on top of the tables, taking out the trash. And he would come in and help me do it. And I remember one of my friends who was working with me was like, I think he likes you. And I was like, no way, he doesn't like me. She's like, why would he come in here and do that with us if he didn't like you? And I think that was the first time I had that like bug in my ear, like, oh, does he like me? And I remember going home for Christmas and then coming back, and I remember still like what it was like when he came back. He came to the church, and I remember seeing him and my heart started like racing, and I'm like, dang, I really do like this guy. Like, oh my gosh.
Julie used to lock herself out of her car all the time. I mean, literally, all the time. So I got her key, and I made a copy for her and a copy for my sister so that they both could have it just in case she got locked out of her car. But what she didn't know was that I made a third copy for myself, and I had a plan. On the night of her birthday, or the night before her birthday, I got a bunch of balloons, and I snuck into their parking lot, and I got into her front seat. I hiked my chair back as far as I could so that no one in the house could see me, and I started blowing up balloons until the entire car was filled. I also made a mixtape. Well, at that time, it was a little bit past tape, so it was a mixed CD, and I placed that inside of the CD player. And you know, back in the day, when you made a mixtape for somebody, that was legit. That just meant you were really, like, it was for sure that you liked them. Mixtapes, that was the sign of the day.
And things started to change. Like, I started noticing that he wasn't like talking to the girls that were like paying him attention, and he was not giving like full hugs anymore. He would just give like side hugs or whatever to people that he would see. And like those kinds of things like made me notice, like pay attention to him more.
All right, so now we're together, sort of. We weren't together. The internship basically ended up ending a little short for me, and I left. I ended up going back to California, and I didn't want to leave, but I left and went back home, basically. I went back home, and Julie and I kept talking back and forth through email still, and I still have those emails today. Oh, when the internship was going to be fully over, like officially, I was supposed to move back, and Julie and I were going to have this relationship, and I was going to get a job there, and we were going to live in Albuquerque. Julie and I were hanging out pretty much every single day, and we went to Applebee's again, of all places.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we went to Applebee's, and we met up with a bunch of friends there at Applebee's. After we had the meal at Applebee's and we finished hanging out with the friends, both Julie and I decided to go sit out on a bench that was in between Applebee's and like this bank, and it was kind of like a secluded spot.
He like won't let me live it down, like, to this day. Okay, so I said, and you have to know that the backstory for me is that I didn't want, and I think I said this, but I didn't want to date just to date. Like, my intentions with Jay, like, I didn't, at the time, like, I wasn't sure if he was still, like, fully committed. And so I didn't. And so I was like, look, don't mess around. If you're gonna, what did I say? Like, if you're gonna date me, you gotta marry me or something.
No, so what she said was, if we're gonna date, this is for real, this is serious. This isn't just to date, this is eventually to get married. So in my mind, she was saying, decide right now whether you're gonna marry me or don't mess with me. Like, don't even mess with me.
And I didn't mean it like that.
This isn't for marriage.
I meant it like,
yes,
be serious.
Like
I meant it like, be serious. Like, I don't want you to just mess around with me and then just like move it along. I just wanted you to be serious.
How else do you translate you're with me to get married to me? Like, how else do you translate that?
I didn't say it like that, I don't think.
Well, that's how I interpreted it. So at that moment, like, I'm like, oh shoot, like, what do I do? Like, I don't, like, I didn't know what to do, but I said, yeah, I'm down.
I think you did say that too. I think you said I'm down. And I was like, what does that mean? This guy's weird. Do you remember going to my house when I wasn't there and you wrote something in newspaper? You said I love you in newspaper.
Oh shoot, yeah, I did. I did a lot of romantic stuff.
I did.
I broke into her house because I didn't.
He liked
so
to break
romantic.
into things.
I love to break into things. Those are like my old days. So I broke into their house and I wanted to write her a message that she would see and that she wouldn't forget. And so I wrote, I got newspaper of all things because there was no pens in the house. Go figure. I cut out I love you and I put that on the floor.
And I remember it wasn't Y-O-U, it was the U.
Really?
Yeah.
I was lazy.
Mm.
Man, I didn't even write it all the way out. But anyways, I put that there and did I leave? I left. I wasn't there. I didn't stay. That would be really awkward. I'm hiding in like a back room like, all right.
So we stayed for a while. We had lots of conversations. Things were getting like really good. I was living with this like lady from the church in this little house with her little dog. And like I felt like Jay and I were in a good place, but I don't know why. I just felt like I had to tell him that he should go. Like for some reason I felt like if he moved back to California, our relationship would grow, which I know sounds totally crazy, and it does even sound crazy to me now. But at the time, I felt like that's what God was telling me, like to tell him like we needed this time apart so that we could focus on our relationships with God, and then we would be able to come together.
When she told me that, I was just like, well, it's over. Like she's telling me to leave, basically. It's over. And I remember driving away that night, and the freeway that you drive out, if you know the freeway out of New Mexico or Albuquerque to go back to California, it leads away from the Sandia Mountains. And the Sandias are, if you've ever been to Albuquerque, New Mexico, are one of the most beautiful things you could ever see. And the sun was setting, and I was driving away from my love, from the love of my life, and I saw the sun setting in front of the Sandias, and then just the look of the mountains behind me in the rearview mirror. It just signified like I'm leaving all this beauty. I contemplated for 1 second. No, I'm gonna go get some flowers and I'm gonna beg her to stay. But I was like, no, I'm gonna listen to what she asked and I'm gonna leave. As I was driving away, I think for the first 30 miles while I still saw the Sandia Mountains, I cried my eyes out like the entire first 30 miles of it. I don't think she knew that, but
I didn't know that.
But yeah, I did.
So for you, it was like me saying goodbye. But for me, it wasn't like that at all. Like I fully intended to still like be with him, to still marry him, all that. He was moving to Long Beach, which is where I'm from, and he was gonna live with my friends. So to me, I'm like, I have people like right there who'll keep him in check.
Once I got to Long Beach, we called every single day. I had like a prepaid phone card. I mean, who has those anymore? And I used to call her all the time. And we kept corresponding back and forth. We kept calling each other back and forth by phone for that next 4 months until she moved. 4 months? It was 4 or 5 months. She came back, and we started our relationship from there. So anyways, that is our story. So thank you if you watched up until this point. That's the beginning of our story, like the beginnings of how we started. In the next episode or video, vlog, webisode, whatever it is, we'll talk about more of how we got from that point to where we're at today and how our relationship has grown and blossomed. The love of my life, says Julie Cruz.